Okay, what I'm going to continue on with right now is the sewing, and I'm going to show you kind of like the Muppet stitch or Jim Henson stitch. There's many names out there, but I'm just going to show you. I'm using dark thread, which is brown, which you can see right there. Normally you would clearly pick a color that will match as close as you can, which, as you can see, you can barely see that thread on there, and it's right there, close to what you've dyed the fabric with. Very important to not go to a dollar store and buy thread for this procedure. There's a lot of pulling and tugging, so you need good quality thread. So this is the place where I would never say to, go chintzy on is the thread. Make sure you have good, or you will be very frustrated by the end, or you'll give up, or you just won't do it. So I'm using regular cotton thread, and I'm using, so if you go into a cloth shop, I guess is what I'm saying, normally they sell good quality thread, and you'll find out. You don't need thick stuff. You just need regular thread, cotton, kind of all-purpose thread, but just make sure it's a good name, brand, and it won't break. Then you will have less chance of it breaking. I also have one of these. You can use a candle. It's a piece of wax that you can rub your thread through a few times. And what that does is sometimes when you're sewing with thread, you end up with a piece with it tangling up. And what will happen is you'll probably end up having to redo it, because the thread will so tangle you can't even get a knot into it, and you'll have to restart from scratch again. So just be aware that it's, rub it through. You can buy these again at the cloth shop or wherever you buy fabrics, and they sell sewing supply stuff. They usually always have something like this with wax on it so that you can do that. Now I'm just going to start in the middle. Normally you would start at an end and work your way around. But I'm just going to quickly show you. So I'm going to hide the knot by putting it underneath the fabric. Here, let me just zoom in a bit here. I'm going to do this as good as I can. Okay. So what I've done is just put the knot, or started the thread underneath, so the knot will not be seen. So here we go. I'm going to turn it around. So kind of the smaller the stitch, the better the results and the better chance of hiding. Sorry, this is going to be tricky. There we go. Okay, so what I've done is I've started here, and I've started right here, and I've put two, just put the needle in here and out through there, and I'm pulling it through. Just like that. Now you don't pull too tightly yet. And then your first stitch, or the stitch, so I pulled it through and it's not too tight. The first stitch where you started, you go back to, and you get in there as close as you can to that stitch. And you do the same thing. It's just the same thing over and over again. Like that. And then I go back to where the last stitch is, get as close as I can without going into the same hole, putting it in and putting it out, and then I pull it through. And once again, I'll do one more. I put it in as close as I can to the last string I just did, as close as I can without going into the same hole, and trying to keep all the stitches in line, and just a small little in and out. You don't want it too big or you'll start seeing the seams. The whole idea of this stitch is it really well hides the seam. And then what you're going to do, and this is the part, is really pull it, and then it pulls it together. Okay? Then you've got to kind of dig back find out where the last stitch that you put in, and you're going to repeat. So in, out, pull through, close as I can, not too tight yet. I do about 3 to 4 stitches and then I'll pull tight. And there's the thread, and I go to the closest to the hole, last hole that I on the other side, the last piece of thread, and I in and out, pull it through, and then once again I just repeat the process, in and out, right like that, keeping the stitches small, and once again in and out, and pulling it, and then pulling them so that the stitches will disappear. And there we go. Now you will see a seam right away. You can probably notice that. What you need to go once you're done sewing is going back and plucking out all these little pieces. Fluff them up again because they get caught in the threads, and you want it to make it invisible. I'm not going to pick too much because I need to go back now and redo this because I'm using a color that I can't use on this body. But you get a pretty good sense just on that little piece right there. I just simply took my needle and I simply kept fluffing it up a little bit, gently but aggressively, so that my seam will hide, and then there we go. You don't really see it anymore at all. And that's how we do the Muppet stitch. And you can use this stitch on the face. I'm using it on the body just because it was easier to demonstrate, but the same method is used for any place that you would sew on the puppet, especially in the visible areas like the face and that, where you want to hide seams. And that's about it. Make sure your thread isn't too long when you work. You might have to knot a few more times, but if it gets too long, you start running into tangling, even if you use wax, and you want to stay away from the tangle issue. So let me just do one more, since we've got you on screen. So there's the last stitch that I put because the other stitch is on this side. I'm going to go in, and I'm going to go out as close as I can to the last stitch on the other side. I'm going to pull it all the way through. One more time. Stitches on the opposite side, the one closest to where I'm sewing, closest to the hole. 1, 2, and we just keep that up. And then we pull it together. There we go. And then we go back and we just use the needle to pluck out where the seams have caught the fleece bits and pull it out so that it hides the seams. And that's how we do it. At the end, you will just knot it off. So let's say if I was finished, I would simply make a typical knot and thread. By the way, I'm using 2 threads. I should have mentioned that at the beginning. I am using 2 threads. I doubled the threads up. Okay, so it's 2 together, knotted together. And then I just simply knot it. Try to find an inconspicuous spot to knot it. When you fluff it up, it should hide it. I mean, if the thread matches, you'll clearly not see it. and I'll just snip it off, and that will be it. So there we go. So I'll be continuing that all the way around the entire puppet.